Welcome back everyone. This was one heck of a week for the LOC, wasn't it?
Sure was, Frank, sure was. I'm Lindsay Ogden, and that's Frank Sanders. Welcome to LOC Network. What have we got for them today, Frank?
A whole lot. We have a recap of the week 2 games and current standings, our failure and savior of the week, the best and worst waiver moves, a preview of next week, and LOC news.
And of course our coach call. Let's get the ball rolling.
This week's marquee matchup pitted Predators against Bare Necessities. Predators came in 1-0, Bare Necessities were the opposite.
Predators opened a huge lead, and that gap just never seemed to close. A crazy performance by Des Bryant let the rest of the team just go to work and bring home the victory.
Bare Necessities never really managed to get it going, and as a result they had a lot of subpar performances. They moved to 9th place at 0-2, whereas Predators remained first.
Tom's Tyrants took on ADRZ this week, and they were just a little bit flat. Things didn't start well for them when ADRZ took a commanding 15-point lead Thursday night.
They managed to bring it level come Sunday though, and for much of the day it was a close game. But a clutch performance from Marshawn Lynch emphatically sealed the deal for ADRZ.
Both teams moved to 1-1, ADRZ are 7th, Tom's Tyrants are 5th.
Forge Flyers faced Gridiron Gang this week in a divisional game. It started out relatively close, but Forge Flyers managed to open a 50-point lead.
Gridiron Gang tried to fight back, but it was just too much to overcome, and it finished 124-94. Gridiron Gang are last at 0-2, Forge Flyers are second at 2-0.
2 undefeated teams squared off this week, and only one could come out unscathed. I'll be honest, Lindsay, this was a close game all day.
This game came right down to the wire. The Tuckfords had a good lead, but the Niners couldn't hold on to it for them, and Ignan managed to win by 5.
Ignan moved to 2-0, now in 3rd place, while the Tuckfords moved to 1-1 in 6th place. Lastly, the Real QB and the Dream Team met this week for the first time in the Veterans Division. It was another really close game that didn't want a winner.
The Dream Team managed to step up when it mattered just before the end though, and the Real QB couldn't match it and lost a heartbreaker.
The Dream Team go 1-1 in 4th place, and the Real QB fall to 0-2 in 8th.
Here is a quick look at the standings before we move on to the savior and failure.
Now for the savior of the week.
We actually have 2 saviors this week, Marshawn Lynch and Antonio Brown. Both came up in the clutch for ADRZ and Ignan and won them the game.
There was only one failure however, and that's Drew Brees. He didn't even break 15, and the Tuckfords only lost by 5, terrible performance.
Now let's take a look at the best and worst waiver picks. My best has got to be Michael Vick Frank. He is an absolute machine, even if he is injury prone. Not to mention he is an old Dream Team favorite. Good end.
The injury proneness is why he isn't mine, Lindsay. I'm going with another Dream Team ad, Bernard Pierce. Even though the value is likely to be short-term, he will carry a load.
The Tuckfords find themselves picking up a failure again this week for me, adding James Starks. Since when do the Packers run? And he will have no value when Missy gets back.
Someone had to add him after what he did last week. But I have to agree with you there, Lindsay, it was definitely the worst ad this week.
Now let's look at next week's matchups. The Tuckfords go up against Predators in what has to be the best game next week, an absolute grudge match between these two.
It certainly is, Lindsay. The Tuckfords will look to knock off the high-flying Predators, but they will want to bury the Tuckfords. The Real QB will be looking to get their season started against Tom's Tyrants and get their first win this week.
They sure do, but Tom's Tyrants will be looking to get back on track after a rough week last week. This game could be surprisingly good. The father-son matchup is here in week 3, and this must be the marquee game. both at 0-2, both trying to keep up with the division, and bragging rights to boot. What a game!
The Dream Team will go toe-to-toe with Ignan this week in an attempt to keep up with the division leaders. If they win this one, this division becomes very interesting indeed.
And lastly, ADRZ will be looking to build off the momentum they generated last week when they take on 2-0 Forge Flyers.
Now for some LOC news. Tom's Tyrants were hoping to get Gronkowski back this week, but he is looking unlikely to suit up for them in Week 3. They will go with Bennett most likely.
Detonators lost both Eddie Lacy and Malcolm Floyd this week, but they won't be affected unless they are both long-term injuries. ADRZ must have been panicking when they heard MJD went down, but it turns out he will be just fine, and will be ready for them come Sunday.
Forge Flyers was not so lucky with Steven Jackson. They will lose him to a thigh injury for at least 2 weeks. Look for Sproles to take his place. Ray Rice was also hurt this week for the Dream Team, but the severity of the injury is unknown at this time. He might suit up this weekend, but it's looking dicey.
Bare Necessities will have to monitor the status of both Andre Johnson and Vernon Davis this week. They both received minor injuries. Julian Edelman was traded from Detonators to the Dream Team for Golden Tate. And Eddie Royal was traded to Bare Necessities from Gridiron Gang for Stephen Hoshka.
Gridiron Gang also traded Andrew Luck to Ignan for Tom Brady. Busy week for them. They did this after learning Trent Richardson had been traded to the Colts.
Lastly, Gridiron Gang actually received some good news this week. Danny Amendola's injury may not be as severe as first thought, and he could make a return soon.
We have Coach Stubbs on the line now for Coach Call. How you doing, Coach?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Not too bad.
Are you concerned over going 0-2 in the first 2 games, or do you think it was bad luck more than anything?
I look at it and I faced 2 teams that, even if I'd got everything right, I couldn't have beat them. I would have got 100 points, plus 100 points plus each game if I had got it right, and my instincts of who to play, I ignored and listened to other advice, and that would have got me over 100. So I feel like going forward, I'm going to make the right decisions, go with my gut like I used to. The old coach Stubs is coming back, and we'll be back to winning ways.
You face up against Bare Necessities this week, who are also 0-2. Do you think the loser of this match should say goodbye to any playoff hopes this early on?
It's quite early to rule a team out, even if they are 0-3. I mean, the Tuck Files managed to make playoffs in 2011, I believe, after going 0-3. But obviously, I think that was a very close year. It's going to hinge on what happens in the other games, because obviously the Detonators are 2-0, Forge Flyers are 2-0, Ignan are 2-0. If all of those guys win, obviously feasibly you're looking at one last wildcard spot, unless they have a horrendous run of luck. But I think it's a bit too early to rule them out.
How do you feel about Trent being traded to the Colts? How much of an impact do you think it could have on your season?
Oh man, I love it. I mean, he was the centerpiece in Cleveland, which is music to anyone's ears, but when he's the only piece, then the team's just going to try and stop him, and that's what we saw in the first 2 weeks. He just couldn't do anything because teams just tried to stop him. Now he's on the Colts. Obviously, he's got Andy Luck slinging the ball, so teams can't just stack the box. He's going to run wild. They want to run a power run scheme, but they haven't had the personnel, so they're going to run power run scheme. He's going to get the goal line carries. He's going to be a top 5 back, I reckon, by the end of the year.
Last one, Coach. You have recently traded Luck to Ignan for Brady. Can you explain why?
Well, I didn't really want Andrew Luck and Trent because, if they have a good week, lawyers, they should both have a good week. If they have a bad week, obviously they're both going to suffer, and that's two vital positions. But I look at it as, you know, you get down to the end zone, yeah, one of them's going to get a touchdown and the other one isn't. So you're kind of missing out on points in that respect. And so I thought, I like Luck, but I'll see what I can get for him. Talk to Coach Sherwood, a Vignan, inquired about Tom Brady, and he listened. And obviously Brady's one of my favourite players. I had him back in the 2010 season. He took me to the championship and won it for me. So I thought I'd bring him back to the team, hopefully get back to old ways.
Okay, thanks coach. Good luck in the father-son grudge match this week.
Right, thanks, bye.
Well, that brings this episode to a close. I'm Lindsay Ogden and that's Frank Sanders. Have a good weekend.
May your points be plentiful. See you next Thursday.